his initial reaction when he heard, hey, you might have 5 to 6 months left to live, was, oh great, I'll be able to live to see another spring. What is going on, my friends? Welcome back to another episode of The Morning Takeaway. And today we are going to get a little personal. I don't know if personal is the right word in the sense that we're going to be coming at anybody in particular, rather talking about something that's going on in my life personally and how I'm kind of relating it to, I guess, perspective on life and how, kind of the common theme of dealing with adversity. So before we get to that, I kind of want to present an idea and make sure you stick along with me throughout this podcast to, hear that story and the depth of it, I guess. But I want to give you kind of something and an idea that I was reflecting on today in my meditation. And in that meditation, it was talking about, we were talking about transforming, and I say we, but it was the guided meditation and the instructor, Andy, on Headspace, the app Headspace, it's great. He was talking about transforming anger. And one of the techniques that, and I kind of just, there's 10 episodes in each kind of idea, and right now I'm on transforming anger. I just randomly choose whatever. I'm on episode 9, and this idea that letting anger be there, right? And we get angry, we feel that anger come on, and we a lot of times let it get the best of us, right? And we act out of emotion and fight or flight response in that initial moment. But what I've been practicing in this meditation is a lot of breath work stuff. And when you can focus on the outward breath. So a lot of times in my meditation, I'll count the in-breath and the out-breath 1 and 2 and get all the way to 10. And then you restart so your mind doesn't wander. And on this one, I'm only counting to 1 when that end breath, the out breath, starts and finishes. So essentially when it finishes. But where I'm going with this is that within that breath, you start to notice. He talks about noticing the beginning of the breath and the end of the breath. And you begin to notice, especially when you first start it, that first out breath is kind of hard, or it's maybe a little softer, or maybe the breath is longer or not as long. And it's really this crazy concept, and relating it to anger in the sense that when you do experience anger and you're able to, when we get angry, we start to breathe a little heavier, right? And if you can, in that moment of initial anger, recognize, hey, I'm angry, it's here, but not try to do anything to get away from it, just recognize it, let it be, and then breathe through it. Take a deep breath. And that's kind of what this practice has been doing, right? And focusing on that out breath. When we get angry, that breath becomes a little more firm, but recognizing that breath from the beginning to the end, and then when that breath starts back again, counting another one, right? And you can take this practice and run with it and use it as well, but the point that I wanted to get at is that with every end of a breath, every end of an out breath, there is the beginning of a new breath. And that's where I want to go with this episode. On death. We're going to talk about death. We're going to talk about life. And the idea that when life goes, other life comes. And as I was reflecting on this today in my meditation, I was just like kind of having this crazy thought in that meditation. They're like, all right, this breath is ending. I'm not focusing on the in-breath now. I'm only focusing on the out-breath. Those are the only ones that I'm counting. So I related it to death and what I have going on. So here's the story. It was last Wednesday or so, I get a call from my mom, and basically, in a nutshell, my grandfather's not doing well. And I don't say this to have anybody feel sorry for me and whatever. It's just, that's what happened, right? And it's a part of life. And hey, your grandfather's not doing well. I'm still remaining optimistic. We're all still remaining optimistic. We still don't know anything definitely, but basically, had to go to the hospital, and there's basically a malignant tumor on his pancreas, and we're actually as of today waiting to hear what happens. But where I'm going with this is the idea that, one, death is a part of life. He's 84 years old, and we're all going to experience it. You've heard the old saying, there's two things that are permanent in life, death, and taxes, or something. I don't know the saying. But anyways, not to digress, it's a part of life. There is a certain perspective that we can take on death, and it's another kind of one of those ideas in life that something is presented to you, and how you respond is essentially what makes it what it is, right? And that's a whole saying in baseball. One time, my coaches used to say, life is 90% what happens to you, or 10% what happens to you, and 90% how you react to it. Now, I don't want to demean the idea of death in any way, because it's powerful. And the moments we take in with these people, and whoever it is, I'm not even talking about my situation in general, I'm just talking about it gives you a new sense of presence, whether somebody has time left or the people that you're around now, and it just gives you this crazy, all these emotions, right? And reflections that you can begin to act on. And where I want to loop this into the breath is, my grandfather gets this news, and obviously there's going to be all kinds of crazy emotions from everyone, himself included. And as I said, we're all pretty positive people, optimistic people. We're remaining optimistic. We don't know anything yet. But one of the ideas that was presented to him was hey, it's pancreatic cancer. You may or may not have 5 to 6 months left to live. And this is the point of the podcast. The punchline is, his response, his initial reaction was, when he heard, hey, you might have 5 to 6 months left to live, was, oh great, I'll be able to live to see another spring. And I was like, whoa. When my mom told me that, I was like, holy crap, that is one of the most powerful things I have ever heard. And you get to thinking about that, and life is seasons, right? I did a whole podcast on that, and the 4 seasons of life, and somebody named Jim Rohn, Rohn, talks about it all the time as well. But in the spring, it's a time of growth, and new plants are growing. And one of the things he said, he's this Englishman, and he said something along the lines of the baby ferns will be sprouting again, right? They'll be growing again. And if you just take that idea, and someone that's in that position that is potentially looking at, a timeline, and is able to take that perspective and say, wow, if I'm going to go, at least I get to see other natural life come into the world, right? And he has this whole perspective of, if I'm going to go, there's going to be new life, right? And in that alone, I guess there's not much further left to talk about, because this is the punchline that I was getting to. But that idea and perspective and optimism, when you're literally potentially facing that timeline, right? And I don't want to get too crazy, firm and affirmative on it, and because we don't know. We could have 5 to 6 years, I don't know, 10 years, 15 years. But just in that moment, I wanted to present that for anybody that might be experiencing or has gone through this, to have that kind of, to maybe look at the different perspectives, right? And like, I've been through the depression and everything, and like that's why I'm so firm on mental health. And I think perspective and taking control of your own mind is a real thing. And for him to have that control of his mind in that situation is pretty powerful. So I just wanted to share that with you. I know I got kind of right into this thing. It was pretty quick, but wanted to share a personal experience and hopefully relate that to something maybe that you're going through or have gone through. And if I do say something that may or may not have impacted you, I would appreciate, the best way you can help me out is by sharing this show. It truly does help. And don't forget to subscribe, like the video, comment maybe your thoughts, maybe something you've heard that was powerful from a friend, relative, loved one, or something of that nature that you've seen come and go. And to take the message away as, you know, with every ending, there is a beginning. And that can be short term, or that can be long-term in the permanent, right? And just because we're going through bad things doesn't mean that some good thing can't sprout. And, you know, I want to leave that with you before we go into our random question generator. Not even before. I'm going to get into the random question generator. Number one, the only one. What's something that you believe you'll never be able to do well? Well, honestly, that's a pretty bad question. Sorry if you hear my dog slurping water over there. But I don't really like that question, because I think if there's something that you want to do well, you can always learn how to do something well. Now, you may not be able to be the most talented at it, but I think if you believe that you can't do something well, you'll obviously buy into that and you won't be able to do something well. But in my own opinion, I think there is endless capabilities in this world, and you can learn on things, you can become whatever you want to become. So normally I would actually skip that question because I don't like it, but I think that's a good answer and a kind of a deep answer for you. So good perspective search. But anyways, I hope that maybe resonated with you in some shape or form. I will talk to you soon. I'd love to hear your comments, your thoughts on this episode. It's a little more personal and in-depth than I normally get. But anyways, I appreciate you watching. Hope you have an awesome freaking day, and don't forget to smile.